What would 12-year-old you never believe about adult you? For almost 9 years, I've worked literally 1 minute away from a huge water park and I've never gone there. We never got that growth spurt we were promised. That sometimes, when I'm not paying attention, my mom's words slipped right out of my mouth. That, I too, don't know what the FK I'm doing with my life. That I'm almost 40 and still don't have a stable full of horses. I live in a whole ass other country and speak another language now. That definitely would have come as a surprise. That I own an ice cream shop. Mind blown. I actually like exercise and physical activity, it's just P class that sucked. That the brother I hated would become my best friend. That my father would die young. Both of his parents lived well into their 90s. He was athletic, non-smoker, not a risk-taker. He also turned out to be the only one in his family to get cancer, a particularly deadly type. That I found a girl that buys me Star Wars Lego at Christmas. That I haven't gotten married. That's something I just assumed would happen and yet here we are and I'm still single. I think I'd also be surprised at how rough my teenage years were. Hey, you know that girl over there you think is really weird? You're going to marry her. That I have a kid taller than me. I'm not tall or anything, just never pictured being shorter than my 13-year-old. That I actually like bees now and want to pursue beekeeping someday. I used to hate all bugs no matter what, but with more research, I realized that bees aren't so bad. Still hate other bugs though. How little I've accomplished. How many emotions were cancelled. That I'm in bed usually by 8:45 every night. To sleep, flushed face. That all of the things I said did always remember and never do as an adult, I've largely forgotten and probably do as an adult. That I still laugh at the exact same things. I'd still sit down for an all-night session of Dungeons and Dragons. That I would be answering a hypothetical question about my 12-year-old self on an internet forum using my phone. That I've heard a pilot scream "Mayday, Mayday" before ejecting. I'm an air traffic controller. That he would become a scientist after all. Being a dirt floor poor country kid seemed unsurmountable at the time. 12-year-old me would put a beat down on me for dropping out of college and smoking weed every day. 12-year-old me was also probably in better shape and would easily win that fight. That I learned how to prioritize myself, and am not responsible for upholding anybody else's well-being or happiness anymore. She has friends, good, supportive, long-term friends. We never achieved that swan status. Still an ugly duckling. That the only thing preventing me from ending it is my dogs. Then he'd be totally stoked I have dogs. He'd be blown away that I'm writing professionally now. That I'm overweight and I became a suit. That my hair would still be this long. I was on chemo from 11 to 14 and all I wanted was to get my hair back. I had luscious locks halfway down my back. I'm a boy, and am proud to say after 3 years of being off chemo my hair has restored to, almost, its old length. I'm eternally grateful for my life, and plan to live it to the fullest. I get that I'm not really an adult but I'm as adult as I've ever been. That I can run 6 entire miles. Run the whole thing, without stopping once. I still can't believe it sometimes, the human body is amazing. That I would be a firefighter. Yeah dude, you get to ride in the truck. That I'm on my way to becoming a doctor. 12-year-old me would scream why, rant about how doctors are the scariest beings ever and how the hospital drives you nuts. 12-year-old me really wanted to be a pilot. That I'm marrying the girl I had a crush on then. Let's see. 1. That I actually did the things like get into a good college, graduate, and get a good job too. That I smoked cigarettes for a while, few years in college and after. Pretty weird / out of character. 3. That I have a wife and 2 on-purpose children at age 324. That my household income is as high right now as my parents ever was. They really wouldn't believe that, which tells you everything you need to know about them. We got braces at 31, person face palming, fair skin. That I'm still alive. 12-year-old me was suicidal depressed. Still am. Hoping I will get better eventually but it's been 23 years and hasn't gotten better yet. That I made it all 50 states. I know kinda boring. That I travel the world for a living. That my husband-to-be and my dad, who's from Sinaloa, Mexico, would shake hands. I was pretty terrified about being into guys as a Latino male at 12, and even more terrified that my super conservative parents / family would find out. After a while I just said FK it, and let my fam choose if they wanted to be a part of my life. Luckily I was pleasantly surprised. Smile. That I would become a heroin addict. I got my shit together now, got close to a year clean, but still man, strange and dark times. That I'm a virgin in my 30s and live with my parents. Lived with a couple strippers a couple different times. I'm 25 and still haven't bought myself a RC car toy like I promised myself before. That I did, in fact, go on a date with a boy and gasp get married to one, and also that I'm bisexual. I think my 12-year-old self would be more surprised about that first thing. That I still like nerdy stuff. I look like the total opposite of the kind of guy who would. Sorry kiddo, you didn't make it as a pro wrestler, and you realized being a musician wouldn't pay the bills either. How much of a disappointing piece of human trash I am. That I wanted to kill myself lol. How many tattoos I have, back then I never thought I'd get any. That I'm not some super successful rich smart doctor scientist with a Nobel Prize and a bright future ahead of me like every adult told me I would be. That all those friends and family don't stick around as you get older. You're still alive at 30 and your boyfriend will be killed. Life is wild and hurtful but you made it this far. Probably all the worldly pleasures I've taken part of. 12-year-old me was very religious. That I would want to kill myself. My younger self would never have believed I would go to university to obtain multiple degrees. I was barely literate in grade 4, a bit of a late bloomer, I guess. What would 12-years-old me believe about adult me? That I would ever work up the courage to ask out a girl. And that she would say yes. I use a wheelchair now, don't have a uterus anymore, need 8 joint replacements, have had stage 4 cancer 3 times, etc 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 ha ha ha. I'm not even 23 yet either roof. That I never became the first man on Mars. That was always my plan. I guess, technically, I could still be the first. That I want to go back to being 12 years old again. Also, things don't get better after turning 21 years old. You literally can't do anything you want to do. My confidence flows from me. I used to be the most awkward kid imaginable. My hair is short. Sorry kiddo, you wanted Rapunzel hair but instead you got a pixie cut. I'm graduating from college this semester. Dyslexia who? She never stopped you, just slowed you down a bit. I'm dating the popular jock type. He is hot, sweet, a great cuddler, and the biggest softie ever. I'm a woman, I work in video games and can pay my bills with this job and my mom didn't hate me for it. More for the first thing. That my mom would actually leave my abusive stepdad. Thought it would take a miracle. And that miracle actually came. Just a few years ago I had been prepping my soon-to-be wife for the expectation that we would never visit that side of the family since it just wasn't safe. It all ended up so much better than I ever had imagined. That I make my money in a legitimate job in the cannabis industry. That I'm still single as rolling eyes face. I failed college and still bought a house at 22 on my own. That I never made it past 410. That's as tall as I'm getting in this lifetime. Better luck next time. Surprise, you're a girl. Also you're a gay AF. I'm bi-trans. The years of self-hatred amount to nothing, so loving yourself is possible. That I am planning to marry the girl he likes. That I'm gay and trans lol. That I can barely move. 12 Yomi was doing back handsprings in the front yard. Tomorrow, 25 Yo has my first appointment in what I'm assuming will be a long haul to figure out this chronic pain I'm having. Thinking fibromyalgia, but hoping not. Still in disbelief at my lack of mobility. Edit to update. Just saw a GP for the first time in 7 years. She was awesome and ordered tons of blood work. She said all this is highly suspicious of an autoimmune disorder, so we'll see what the blood work says in few days. Thanks everyone here for sharing your experiences and wishing me well. 12-year-old me would envy 35-year-old me's accomplishments.